Okay, today we're going to talk about the belt inside the Yaesu rotator. Now this is a 450, and I've already taken the meter off, the needle off, everything off the back. Of course, you're going to have a bunch of stuff soldered onto it. And this switch, if I can get it untangled, bolts on with the screw right here, right there. You can see a little tab. I'm not very good at working with one hand. But anyway, that switch goes on there and it hits the little cam on the potentiometer. Now, if you do not have a switch that bolts in either here or the other side, here's a SDX. It's got a gear, it's got a switch here and a switch here. So as that gear turns around, the little cam comes up and hits each one of these and closes it and puts it to ground, and then there's one on the backside. So if you're lucky enough and you do not have a switch on this side or this side, pull this all off, pull your gear off, pull this assembly out, and put the gear and put the belt on. Now, if you've got the switches, don't undo that. That thing's got to be timed to the potentiometer. Now that raises a nice question. Let's say I have to replace this potentiometer. How do I know where it's timed at on there other than marking it like I did here? How exact does that have to be in relationship to where that switch opens and closes compared to the potentiometer value? Okay? We'll get to that here in a minute. Anyway, no switches, pull the gear off, pull this assembly out, put your belt on, put it back together. If you have a switch there, loosen up your potentiometer, take your switch out of the way, loosen up your potentiometer so you can get this gear pulled up just a little bit. If you get that gear pulled up just enough, take that snap ring off of this one. Let me see if I can do this with one hand. I probably won't be able to, but you can get this gear off. Here, let me pause it. I'll hit the pause button this time. Okay, all it took was lay it up, and then I got it off. And now you can see that the belt is accessible. Take an O-ring pick, put a new belt on it, and put it back together. Just make sure that your little steel sleeve is still on the end of that shaft, and your plastic bushing is in there. Let me see if I can put this all back together again. This has got to go in there like that. If this will work, I'm not very good at moving shit around with just one hand and a couple of fingers. I'm going to shove it in there. There. I think that's good enough. Is it jammed up? Yeah, it's jammed up underneath there. Anyway, I'll put that all back together. So, no switch, pull your gear off. It don't make any difference where that gear goes. If you've got a switch, loosen up your potentiometer so you can back it out of the way. Pull this gear up, pull that snap ring off, pull this gear off, there's your belt. Okay, that's all of that one. I'm going to make sure I don't lose my little snap ring. Now, let's get into the fact of now I've got to replace the potentiometer. Maybe a leg broke off, maybe something happened, I don't know. This is all an SDX. You can see your belt down in there. This is a plate I cut out so I can physically look at all this stuff. And I have, well, let's get all this shit turned on. Okay, I got one set of ohm meters going to this switch. This is actually two switches in one. One of them is the overlap light. I don't know what the other one does. And then we've got one right here. So I've got ohm meters hooked up to all these switches. You can see open, open, open. Now here's my potentiometers. I'm hooked up to my potentiometers. I'm going to flip this thing on, see which way it goes. I'm just running it with 3 volts, 2 AA batteries, a switch. Let me see which way it's got to go to make this thing work. Okay, it don't turn very fast. Yeah, we want to go the other way. And you can see my ohms is changing. Let's go the other way, because I want to show you whenever this switch closes. It don't move very fast, and you don't want it to go very fast. So what's going to happen is that switch right there on the very top is going to close first. So we're looking at the green and the yellow. So here's our green and yellow ohm meter. You can see. Now that switch is coming up on that ramp. You can see right here, you'll watch it start closing right in here. Oh, there it went. Yep, see, now it just closed. Let's shut our switch off. Now what I would do, back this thing up just a little bit. Nope, going the wrong way. Wait until that just opens. There it went. See, our meter just went open. Now I'm going to bump this over a little bit at a time. Even though it goes slow, it's still... come on, I'm focusing on the wire. And going the wrong way all that time. Come on, get away from that wire. I'm just turning this just a little. There it went. It just closed. That switch just closed. I've got 360.3 and 147. Now I would take and I would mark that. And then I would go back the other way and I would check the same way on that other one. You'd have to turn a whole revolution to get that other one. But that's what I would do. And you'll watch. That's turning on the overlap light. Now it's going to come around and hit that big tab, and it's going to close that switch. And that's going to be our ohm meter reading on this ohm meter. I'm going to pause that. No, it's getting pretty close to it. So let me figure out which way my switch is going and bump it just a little bit. Come on, switch, which way do you go? See? Now that switch just closed. And I would write down them readings. So that's those two switches closed. And you'd have to run it all the way back around. And here, I'll just show you. Let's go the other way. And I'll pause it. There it gets close to the other switch. Okay, I'm going to stop it here for a moment. You can see how the potentiometer and the cams, and see that cam right there is pointing straight down. That's pretty close to being center on the potentiometer. Getting back to these now, you can see that one's open. That one's open. Of course, they're not on the ramps. So we're halfway there. Now I'm gonna kick this thing in turbo mode. I wish, huh? I'll make sure I'm going the right way. Yeah. Okay. We'll keep going. And eventually, that other cam back up there will come up on that other land. And that switch there will go closed. So, we're coming around. Now the reason I have this thing cut out is you have to have something holding the axle in place, or your gears are going to sit there and flip-flop and jump, and that's the reason why I made that. Also, if a person just has to pull the gear off, you can just pull the gear off and put it right back on and then time and then not have to worry about timing it. But with that plate on there, you can't get the gear off. So, let's back up just a little bit. It just closed. Wasn't paying attention. Okay, there it's open. They just barely touched this thing because anyway, that one there is closed. That one right there. I would write down these specs. And shit, I'm still turning. Duh. Let me back it up some. I didn't center my switch. I'm so worried about getting it just whenever that switch opened up. There, now it just closed. Yeah. Okay. What the hell am I touching here or what? I wonder why it's going back open again. Well, anyway, now that switch is open, but if I turn it just a little bit, it'll go closed. And I would write down these ohm readings, make a list, and go from there. This is kind of crap show, but I wrote down all this stuff. Top part of the switch closes at 148.3, and then the bottom closes at 32, blah blah blah. How I set the potentiometer up, and the tab should be straight down. Anyway, I don't know if I'd ever need any of this information, but if you ever had to replace the potentiometer itself, you may have to do something like this. You just think of a line of hurt if you replace that potentiometer and you don't have this gear timed to the potentiometer. Like I say, no gear, just pull the gear off, put a new potentiometer on it, slap it back together. It don't matter, but when you come into all these switches, that's whenever all hell breaks loose. And like this one here, you can get the belt off without taking that gear off, just like I showed you here. But if you have to replace the potentiometer, look out. And I believe it's the same potentiometer that's inside the rotator. But what you can do is when you set this all back up, leave your grub screw loose on your gear. Run it until it comes up and hits one of these switches, and then you can stick a screwdriver in there and you can adjust your ohms by turning the screw and then tighten down the grub screw. So just something to think about. I've done a lot of research on how to replace the belts, and I really haven't found anything where you had to retime those gears. Now, some of you might look at this and say that's a lot of work, but that's on there for a reason. And I'll tell you one thing, if you keep running this gear back, first of all, this potentiometer, look at this potentiometer. This one here will turn any which way you want it to go until the cows come home. That does not have a stop in it. The ones with the wires in it, the only thing you're going to do is wrap the wire up that goes from the ground or from the pot up here. You're going to wrap that. You're going to spin that thing around so much you'll twist that wire off. I got to look outside the bun here. Where did I put that other one at? Oh, right here. Now you look at this one. This one here does not have the wire in it. If I can get this just right, I don't know. I don't think I'm hurting anything. It's got a stop in it. So if you don't have it set right, what I'm trying to say is this motor can keep turning until that tab comes up against that switch. And what will happen is it'll start jumping teeth because it ain't ramped up on that side that good. See what I'm saying? When this land right here comes up against this switch, it's not made to do that. So just think, if you don't have this thing timed right and this potentiometer is turned to where it's got to think, I need to move that meter more. Well, the only way it's going to move the meter more is to turn this gear so all this stuff all matches, and that thing comes up and bottoms out on that, you're going to tear teeth off one of your gears. So, yeah, I tried just having this top cover off and rotating this thing around. Like I say, I've only got 3 bolts, 2 AA batteries turning this thing. And whenever it came around, there's nothing holding the axle in this gear. And had to do something. It's not going to be right. So I've got more of those plates, and I've got one for the, oh yeah, it's right here. This is the one for this one. They're just almost the same. Matter of fact, I think they really are the same. Anyway, I wanted one on each gear. That way nothing could jump out. And you can actually put this one on the 450. Put that one on there, and you can actually put the needle on it and set the needle. See, I've got some markings on it. And I could tell whenever it came over here, once it hit south again, and once it started going up here into overlap, it opened up that switch. My multimeters are ready to shut down. Anyway, I hope this teaches somebody what it takes. Maybe I'm not doing it right. Maybe my buddy Simon will look at this and say, that's a lot of work, you don't need to do it that way. But yeah, it can be a mess. Anyway, that's it for this 20-minute long video. Better get some advertisement in. That's me. Give me a call, emails on there. Okay, thank you very much.